Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
That was quick.
Yeah, Mark, don't worry. I'm driving on the new expressway and it's absolutely safe.
Hello and welcome to the second edition of PwC Presents The Winning Leap in association with CNBC TV18. This is a show where we look at how businesses create value, discuss the strategies and opportunities that are vital for their growth and the various challenges they face in India's economic environment. In an age of hyper-connectivity, cloud computing and digitization, cybercrimes are on the rise. This week we discuss the need to secure personal data and intellectual properties along with a relook at how companies secure their physical assets against natural calamities, labor unrests and market volatilities.
According to PwC's Global State of Information Security Survey 2016, cyber attacks are increasing by the day in India, with more and more companies falling prey to it. The study points out that incidents have shot up by 117% in 2014. Realizing the untold damage it can cause, the Reserve Bank of India has asked all banks to undertake cyber resilience initiatives on multiple fronts: people, processes, technology and governance, to protect not only its own data and infrastructure, but also ensure the safety of customers' data. Clearly, securing assets, both physical and intellectual, are key for the sustenance of businesses.
Joining me on the discussion is Subhash Subramaniam, CISO at ICICI Bank, Brijesh Datta, CISO at Reliance Jio. Mr. Sivaramakrishnan is partner and leader cybersecurity at PwC India. Thank you, all of you, for joining me on this special show. Thanks indeed. If I can start with you, Subhash. What is the level of preparedness as far as Indian companies go in this regard?
One has to see it in the context of the sweeping changes that have happened in the IT setup. The convergence of forces, social, mobility, analytics and cloud have completely revolutionized the way IT as a function delivers products, services, and has taken businesses from the conventional format to the digital format. The governance framework around IT as a function and around information security as a function has undergone an enormous amount of change. There is a greater oversight on the part of boards of companies, where cybersecurity was perhaps a fringe agenda 5 or 6 years back. It has now come right into the center of the boardroom conversations, and that is one very, very central change. Apart from that, the policy framework, the development of teams, the technology solutions available have also undergone a sea change over the period of last 3-4 years. And one heartening sign is that critical industries in the country have got their own specific targeted plans for enhancing the resiliency of these sectors.
There are leading edge companies who more or less well prepared to address it, maybe to the extent of global standards. But in India, we do have a large chunk of SME, the small and medium-sized enterprises. They are more or less ill-prepared to address this challenge when it comes to cybersecurity. Why it is worrisome is cybersecurity is just not isolated to one company, because now the transactions are happening end-to-end from anywhere to anywhere. So even a weakest link to a chain can affect any part of the chain overall. So because of that, the country-wise overall it has to get improved, and where the large companies need to start addressing their own in their value chain, how do they help the smaller company to elevate their security level and posture.
Is there a difference between the kind of attacks and security risks we see for companies here in India and companies that overseas face at a very basic level? And what is the profile of the attacker? Who are we really talking about here?
There are broadly 4 categories of attackers that target, financial companies, infrastructure companies, SMEs. They start from basically newbies, kids. They're called script kiddies in cyber lingo. So those are the guys who do it just for fun, teenagers that you keep hearing of. Then the next profile would be hacktivists. These are groups like Anonymous, for example, who are out to prove a point. Then the third category would be criminals, right? And lastly would be governments. Like Snowden, for example, he revealed a lot going on there. In earlier times, we used to see more of the first 2 categories. These days, mainly the attackers are criminals. Nature of attacks more and more in India is financial. Then the other category of attacks are which are directly targeting financial companies. Plenty of them coming in from all over the world. And the last category that is getting traction lately is ransomware. This basically means that somebody locks up all your files and asks you for money.
Subash, how has the emergence of new platforms, fintech, etc., IoT, etc., changed the landscape really in this area?
Prashant, fintech has revolutionized a lot of delivery of services as compared to how conventional business used to do it. And a lot of the reason for the success of fintech companies has been their reliance on technology and data and analytics around it. There is an increasing focus on the need to protect customer data. And I think we are in a good position now. But because of the nature of the fintech industry, one would continue to see innovation. Every 6 months there is a new concept which is being talked about, and security invariably follows with a lag. So I would say awareness is there, but I would say it's usually a game of catching up.
We tend to hear about the larger companies and what's going on with them, but SMEs are a very large group, business-wise, value-wise, etc. as well, right? How are they really dealing with it? Are they prepared? Is that where there is a big lacuna?
And the SMEs are the easiest to fall in prey for a ransomware, for a ransom calls and so on and so forth. From an Indian context, we do see rise in the incidences in SME. In particular, things like ransomware, phishing, email compromises, the online money transmissions and so on and so forth. That's an area where we find quite a lot of challenge the SMEs face in particular. When it comes to the small and medium-sized enterprises, it's largely run by entrepreneurs themselves, and their awareness dictates what investments the CISO or a CIO can get for a security. Again, they fall short of their ability to address the challenges. Globally, the regulation plays a very large role in enhancing and improving security. Unfortunately, in Indian context, the regulations fall short of addressing the needs of the current times.
New emerging companies run by entrepreneurs, especially in sectors like fintech, one would imagine they're a lot more updated about the risks and they want to spend there, if you want to take that.
Financial industry and telecom industry, for instance, they are heavily regulated in India. RBI has got clear guidelines of what every financial company is supposed to do. It's not as if, the board is free to do what they want and put in as much investments. Similarly, in telecom also, the regulatory authorities are very much into ensuring that these companies are secure. So by virtue of a regulatory oversight, they have much bigger security, much better security.
What needs to be done? Essentially raising the level of existing infrastructure, or you think we need more cutting-edge kind of solutions to deal with the problems?
So 98% of the problem can get solved if basic processes, basic technology implementations and basic discipline in adopting the right processes, as Subhash talked about, having adequate governance, could solve this problem. Then comes into the next level is that how do I go back and address this 2-3% very complex issues. That comes in where it could get attracted to largely to the larger companies. Currently what occurs in Indian corporates is not about very advanced, cutting edge technology investment, but going back to the basics, fixing all patches, making end user aware, monitoring end user activities so that you can keep on educating them what right things to do or what are things which is wrong to do, etc.
Right. In a way, very simply put, just being careful and following
Absolutely.
simple rules, right?
Absolutely.
Protocols. So, Vash, last word to you. I mean, from a banking perspective, anything you'd like to add to this?
Certain sectors of the economy, I would say critical national infrastructure, definitely banking and financial services, definitely telecom, definitely public infrastructure like roads, etc. These sectors require a much higher degree of resilience,
Vigilance,
resilience,
Right.
investment in much more cutting edge tools, because the impact of that tail risk of 2 or 3%, which Shiva spoke about, in terms of financial and reputational damage, not only for the company or the industry, but for the nation as a whole, is significant. So I would just, with that distinction, I think large part of what Shiva said, of course, holds true.
Thank you very much, all of you. Subhash, Mr. Krishnan, Brijesh, appreciate all of you joining in on this discussion. Very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. That's an interesting conversation. But when we come back after this quick break, there's more coming up. Welcome back. Taking the discussion on securing assets further, I have with me the head of security at PepsiCo India region, Colonel Harendra Bana, and partner and leader Forensic Services PwC India, Dinesh Anand. Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you, Prashant.
Dinesh, if I were to start with you, what is your view on the physical security aspect and how that landscape has evolved and is at the moment?
I think today's day and age, corporates have realized that the fundamental thing which they need to provide is a safe and secure work environment for their people. Today, I think no corporate wants to be seen as a soft target. All are taking measures or are in the process of taking measures whereby they can, improve the existing physical security framework as well as response mechanism.
Colonel Bana, coming to you, which physical security threats do you see growing in the future?
It's irrespective of the nature of industry, whether it's an IT industry or an FMCG or a manufacturing, wherever we are, we have a threat of physical security. And it's going to remain with us as long as we have our offices and our manufacturing hubs and our factories. The important thing that's getting compounded over here is an insider threat, which is now gradually emerging. And what we need to see is that in an era where everything gets managed into a laptop, where we carry our complete data into one laptop, it's more important that we manage our insider threat a lot better. And insider threat would mean that are we looking at the people we hire? Now, with the radicalization which is happening across, we need to be a little more careful on the kind of people we are hiring. We need to be, we see a lot of data theft happening. We see a lot of issues in terms of IP issues. We see a lot of infringement issues. They may not be happening everywhere externally. When you see a case of people changing companies, they also move along with their piece of data and a lot of other things that they have managed.
Today, I think if you take the Western world, in the Western world, background screening of employees is more than 90% of the employees employed are being screened. I think in India it's less than 5%. So in India, no company wants to spend money, and even the ones which are doing, majority of the time are running it more as a process.
In terms of sectors, where do you see these threats emerging the most?
So I think in today's day and age, it will be wrong to say no sector is less vulnerable. But saying that some of your critical infrastructure sectors would be more at risk. So you take oil and gas, you take transportation, you take your communication. Besides that, of course, you take your nuclear facilities, you take buildings which have strategic locations, they continue to be at high risk. I think in today's environment, everybody is at risk. So you even have softer target places, which could be, places where people go to worship. There could be social gathering events which are taking place, malls, cinema halls, So today I think physical security is no longer just limited to a workplace. It's something which, encompasses everywhere. And I think the person who wants to do damage is actually looking for more areas where people will not expect something like this.
In terms of what corporates can do, Dinesh, what can they really do and what should they be doing to mitigate some of these risks?
So I think in today's day and age, firstly, it's better to be prepared than to, regret later. That's one of the key things. So obviously, when you look at having to mitigate the risk, your any good effective physical security program should be built around 4 pillars. So it should encompass your people, technology, infrastructure, and you should have a robust process. So obviously what you need to have is a control mechanism which can detect, deter, and respond to any incident which takes place.
Once we train our people, we need to be investing in training. That's a key area for us, and that's an area where the moment we do it from us, and then the training part goes into 2 different spectrums. That I always believe that when we have our own security, we are not the only guardians of it. Maybe each employee should be owning 1% of the security stake in the company.
I think I just want to add out here, firstly we've got to do away with the attitude that something like this cannot happen to me. So I think first we have to change that mindset that, I'm, immune from something like this to happen. Second is really we've got to think the same way as an attacker. So we need to think, I'm the attacker, what are the areas which are going to be most vulnerable? Once I've identified those vulnerabilities, I need to be able to mitigate them. And once I've mitigated them, I'm automatically crisis ready.
In terms of travel, which is such an integral part of business, right?
Understand.
More and more number of business people are traveling, flying. How do you secure that?
A lot of our travel, a lot of our business actually depends on safe travel. And today, when our people travel, the onus lies on the company also, that when an employee is working on a particular assignment, the company gets him a safe travel policy and a safe travel process where he is safe and his family is reassured. When they face an issue of the nature of what we saw in the recent coup, the companies have worked across different companies, have leveraged each other MNCs to ensure that if they don't have a presence in Istanbul or if they don't have a presence in a significant geography, the other counterparts are there to help him and support him and get him the required help.
So when an incident does happen, as it will inevitably, what does one do to kind of better the response function that corporates have? One is avoiding it, but the other is responding to an incident.
Everybody needs to have is a sort of a holistic have a holistic viewpoint, have an integrated platform which basically integrates all the various feeds which come in, so that at any given time you are able to detect and respond to any incident. So what basically this will do is that it will enable a company to have the right people at the right time and at the right place to be able to deal with any crisis.
There's been a radical change in how we've seen risk and how we've seen threat after 26/11. A lot of companies earlier would have the admin and the security function together. It was the same person was doing the admin job, the same person, and security was always the younger brother of the admin function. A lot of companies after 26/11 have realized that security is a core function within itself and have created roles within their own organizations, and that's exactly similar to the roles that I have within my organization in Pwc, where you have a separate vertical which is independent of admin. And a lot of investment where companies and corporates have started realizing that this is a critical piece where we need to invest, and that's where we see a lot of young officers and young aspiring CSOs now coming in and taking up security as a full-time career. It's a very positive shift which is happening.
Where do you see the function headed, Bana, really?
It was a career of choice for all the defense people. That's undergone a huge radical shift. In one of my companies where I worked, I had hired 17 freshers who were all computer graduates, and they were working across managing a command center for Southeast Asia. Why did they join security? I couldn't really understand it. It just gave them an opportunity to see a new technology, and because they were all IT savvy, that's what the young generation is, they said that it excited them.
Any closing thoughts in terms of how this entire scenario will evolve going forward?
Basically going forward, what you're going to see is that physical security information management systems, which are basically platforms where everything is integrated, will become the backbone. And unless and until you have that, you will not be able to have a successful physical security framework in place. I think that's going to be the key going forward.
Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me on this discussion. That was quick.
Yeah, Ma, don't worry. I'm driving on the new expressway and it's absolutely safe.